Alright, welcome to the Strange North channel. In this video, I'm going to tell you about a scientist that went missing in Ontario a number of years ago, and this case always stuck with me, and to me it's one of the most notable disappearances in that province. This won't be super long, and I'm just going to jump right into the story. So, Lachlan Cranswick was a nuclear physicist that moved from Melbourne, Australia to Canada in 2003. In 2010, he was a research scientist employed by Atomic Energy of Canada at their Chalk River laboratories at Deep River, Ontario. The town of Deep River is a pretty interesting place. It was a planned community founded in 1944 by the federal government as part of the Manhattan Project to accommodate employees of the nearby Chalk River laboratories. And Canada's very first nuclear power plant, called Nuclear Power Demonstration, went online in 1962 near the laboratory site at Chalk River. I think I might do a separate video on Deep River down the road because this town has a very interesting history and it's linked with the Manhattan Project and atomic research in Canada. And so in 2010, 41-year-old Australian nuclear physicist Lachlan Cranswick was working for Atomic Energy of Canada at the Chalk River laboratories. As a crystallographer, Lachlan's expertise was in the molecular and atomic structure of different materials, and he specialized in applying neutron beams to the studies of material science, structural chemistry, magnetism, and geology. He also worked with scientists and students across Canada in applying these scientific tools to their research, and he was very well regarded in his field. Over the course of his career, Lachlan would publish a ton of writing around the need for high standards in risky nuclear environments, and apparently he was not afraid of calling out safety failings in different work environments. Apparently, Lachlan actively avoided getting his PhD because he saw the system as sleazy. And here's a quote from Lachlan, quote, "I feel I am but a cockroach in the big scientific scheme of things," end quote. Lachlan was described by people that knew him as being nerdy, hardworking, enthusiastic, dependable, shy, and generous. I read about how he was known to have donated a lot of his income to different charities, and he even sent large sums of money to his brothers back home to help them support their families. He was described as being a bit of a lone wolf. He lived alone and he wasn't known to date, but he was still fairly social in the community, and he was just very well liked by people that knew him. He was the vice president of the Deep River Curling Club, and he was closely involved with this group. And so on January 18th of 2010, at about 4:30 p.m., Lachlan was seen boarding a bus at the labs that would take him back to his rented house in Deep River. And this was the last confirmed sighting that police had of the scientist. 5 days later, on January 23rd, Lachlan had missed multiple days of work and he failed to show up at a curling championship at the Deep River Curling and Squash Club, and he was reported missing by his friends. Police searched his house on Summit Street and found his door unlocked, which was pretty unusual. And Lachlan was nowhere to be found. And his keys, wallet, camera, and GPS were still in the house. And apparently Lachlan was known to take his GPS unit with him if he ever went hiking in the wilderness around the town. Police also found garbage cans outside, and it was thought that they were placed there that night on January 18th. And so there was a massive search organized around the town, and police along with local residents searched the entire area. A local ski club searched the nearby trails, and police would use helicopters and tracking dogs, although no scent trail was ever found. And it was stated specifically that searchers found no tracks leading to the nearby Ottawa River. At the time, it was reported that the ice on the river was 4 feet thick. I mean, this was in the middle of a Canadian winter. Lachlan had a brother named Rupert who flew in to help with the search. And here's a quote from Rupert. Quote, "The circumstances of the disappearance are just bizarre. I talked to lots of locals there and they think that something extraordinary happened to him," end quote. At the time, this case sparked worldwide discussions about various conspiracy theories surrounding this disappearance, partly fueled by the fact that 2 days after he went missing, the Canadian press revealed that a leak at the Chalk River labs was about 5 times bigger than the operators had earlier reported, with 7,000 liters of radioactive water dumped in the Ottawa River. And then the next year, at a public hearing, the reactor operators admitted that the plant had been leaking tritium into the river for 50 years. Lachlan Cranswick was known to be a bit of a whistleblower surrounding nuclear safety measures, and people speculated that he may have been killed off for knowing something that he shouldn't have. It was also suggested that he may have been kidnapped by a foreign interest, or again killed off for stumbling upon knowledge that he shouldn't have over the course of his research. Other people disagreed with these theories, saying that most of his work was open to public scrutiny and not classified. but at the time there were many theories and ideas surrounding his mysterious disappearance. And despite the massive search that happened, Lachlan was never found, and the police had no solid leads in this case. And then a number of months later that same year, on June 11th, two people in a canoe in Welsh Bay, just east of the Deep River Marina, found Lachlan's body floating in 2.5 feet of water. When they found him, he was wearing his work coat and lab identification. And similar to what has happened in many other mysterious disappearances, there was nothing released regarding his cause of death. I read that police had ruled out suicide and foul play, but the coroner's office never officially released their report, and there was no official cause of death that I could find. Police theorized that based on Lachlan's phone and computer logs, he had spent the evening of January 18th at home and then placed his garbage cans outside at about 11:30 p.m. and then took a late night walk, which he was known to do at times, but again, he usually brought his GPS and he was very safety conscious. Everyone that knew Lachlan said that voluntary disappearance or suicide were highly unlikely, and most people that were close to him thought that something mysterious had happened. Eventually, Lachlan's family had his body cremated and his remains were flown back to Melbourne. And that pretty much wraps up this video. You know, this story always stuck with me, and at the time there was a lot of speculation as to what happened to Lachlan. The coroner's office never publicly released their report, but the police stated that suicide and foul play had been ruled out. And there's this idea that Lachlan was walking on the frozen river and accidentally fell through the ice and died. But I personally don't think that happened in this case. Lachlan was known to be very safety conscious, and people that knew him well said it was very unlikely that he would have chosen to walk on the frozen river. At any rate, the story remains a bit of a mystery, and my heart really goes out to Lachlan's family and friends. I can only imagine what it would be like to go through something like that. I hope you found this interesting and informative, and if you'd like to watch more of my content in general, please consider subscribing to my channel. I upload at least one new video per week. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Strange North channel.